Okay, we're in the study of 1 Thessalonians. This is our third class in 1 Thessalonians. Sorry to start just a few minutes late. Had some difficulty here. Let's ask, if you would, James, could you start us off and read this verse, and let's translate it, 1 Thessalonians 2:3.
Okay. Hagar paraklesis humon uk ek planes uda exa katharsias uta en dolo. And I translated it, for our excitation is not from error, nor from impurity or uncleanliness, nor in deceit.
Okay. Now, we have two different negative words here. I want you to notice. I'll highlight it. We have uday and we have ute. And they have a little different meaning, so we might want to look into that just a little bit here. Now, so he starts off with u. We have u here, and then uday continues the negation. That's its function. So uday continues the negation of u. Now, that's what it does here. Or, and so it serves to continue a negation. So right here, that's what this tells us there, page 461. Now, ute is different. What it does, it's different from mete as u does from me, but from uday as mete does from mayday. See, mayday and uday. Mete and ute. So we really need to look up mete a little more, and we'll elaborate on just a little bit here. So I'll do that in my other file, so we can kind of get a grasp of it here. I think I can do that right here. And do that. So we have mete, say, so let's go back to our word here. We have ute. I'm sorry, I had the wrong word. Thought I did. Ute. Go back over.
All right. There you go. There you go.
All right. Ute is an adjunctive conjunction. So it attaches to it, different from mete as u does from me. Now, ute and uday, Wiener, it's, that W is German, it sounds like a V sound, Wiener. If a continued negation is, as well known, expressed by compounds uday, mayday, and ute. Uday and mete run parallel with the conjunctions day and te. So let me highlight what we're reading here. and must in the first instance be explained by the meaning of these particles, admits of no doubt. Accordingly, we say with Herman that ute and mete are adjunctive. Uday and mayday are disjunctive. So an adjunct attaches something to it, an addition, whereas a disjunctive has two things that are different. And so this or this. Now, we won't spend a lot more time on it, but what we get into here, ute and mete regularly point to another ute and mete. And so, like just as te and ka. So we're getting into some subtleties here of it, but the ute here, right here, let's look at this last sentence. I think may help us. In this correlation, it is a matter of indifference whether things denied are single words, conceptions, or whole sentences, and whole sentences may be correctly be negativized by ute, as single words by ude. In the latter case, the verb belongs to all the numbers negativized. So it can negativize a whole sentence, and it can negativize or deny the whole word. Let's go back over here. Nor in guile. So he's thrown another thing in. So we have these two. It is not of error nor of uncleanness. So error and uncleanness are two different categories. And so we have error, that is, we're doing this and we're just in error, we just don't know any better. Whereas uncleanness, we got evil motives. There's an unclean motive on our part. Nor, now an adjunct, so he adds another thing in that's not related to these, nor guile. So here's the third category. We're not trying to deceive you with what we've done. Guile is a form of deceit. Questions or comments there?
Yeah, I put nor for ude and neither for ute just to distinguish them.
Well,
although they both can be nor or whatever.
Yeah. Normally in English, you start out with neither, nor. That's how you do it.
Oh, neither nor.
Yeah, neither is the first one. Neither this, nor that, nor that.
Oh, okay.
That's
I got them backwards.
All right. I have all of this in your notes. In the notes on this, whenever you get the information, I've added all of this to it. All right. Now then, your translation, James, was what now?
For our exhortation, excuse me, I thought I was on mute. I'm not. For our exhortation is not from error, nor from impurity, nor in deceit.
Okay. Guile is a form of deceit, isn't it? Okay.
Yeah, I thought at one point about using not even.
Now I want you to notice the prepositions that are used. We have ek on the first one, that is that of error. And we have ek, which x, but the kasi is because the alpha following it. And so we have ek twice, and then we have ain. So we have a different preposition. Okay. All right. Now, any questions or comments? Let's go on and let's go, if we might here. Ready? Can you go from what I'm going to highlight here, if you would? Let me highlight it first. Go down to there, if you would, please.
Sure. Allah, Kato, Ito, Kima, Kimas, Mesa, Hupo, Tu, Beo, Pistu, Senai, Pistutanai, To, Gelion.
Evangelion. The gamma gets an NG sound, remember? Evangelion.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good. Okay, Allah kathos is what?
Okay, that would be but even as.
Okay, let's stop on the but just a moment. I'll make a comment or two. Remember, it's Allah, which introduces a new category of things, and to keep that in mind. Okay, go on if you would. Even as.
Okay. But even as we have been approved
Okay,
by
what tense is approved?
Pardon me?
What tense is that verb approved? Is it aorist? Is it imperfect? Is it perfect? Is it present? Is it future? What is it?
It's been approved. Future?
Now notice it's got reduplication. So that goes with the perfect, doesn't it? So it's perfect tense now. Now, class, tell us what we learned from it being perfect tense.
Was and still is.
Okay.
Tony says it was and it still is. And so what did someone else say there?
I think someone else had a comment. I didn't hear it.
Okay, all right. So summation, it was and it still is. It's completed act that's still true. Okay,
Okay.
so have been approved. We have been approved, and we in the past, and we're still approved.
Okay.
Who approved them?
We have been approved by God.
By God. So see, and what he's saying here is, not we were approved and we're not approved anymore, but by perfect tense, we were approved and we still are approved.
Okay.
By God.
Mhm.
And they were approved to do what?
To be entrusted with the glad tidings.
With the glad tidings of the gospel. Glad tidings is a good translation, or good tidings. That's correct. All right. It's good news, isn't it? It's good news even if you're lost. Why? Because you know that there's a way to what?
Because it's saved. It's the way to salvation.
Saved. Very good.
Right.
So it is good news to learn that you're lost. If you didn't know you were lost, and now you know it, now you can do something about it. So that's good news. Some people don't think it is, but it is.
Amen.
All right.
I believe that.
Go ahead, I'm sorry. So you got down to there. Now we have another reader, and I'm going to pick on Chris, if you would, to read the rest of the verse. Chris, could you read the rest of it and translate for us, please?
Yes. Hutos, belumen, uk, hos, anthropois, ariskontes, Allah, theo, to, dokimazantai, tos, cardias, hemon.
Okay.
All right, so I have so we speak not as to men, pleasing, but to God, the one examining our hearts, or the hearts of us.
Okay. So what case is the word men here? I'll highlight it here. What case is that?
I put that as a dative, masculine
Okay.
plural.
So the speaking is two men, say dative case. All right. So what case right here is God?
It's also dative, is how I put
So
it.
we speak as to men, we do not speak as for pleasing men, but what? But to God.
Pleasing God. Yeah,
So
pleasing
actually,
to God.
would you say that the idea of pleasing is implied there?
Yes.
I
Pleasing
believe
God.
it is from the structure of the prior part of the verse. Would everyone agree? So now Allah, we've already seen it in the early part of the verse. I'll highlight up here. We saw it up here. Now we see it again down here. Remember, it introduces a new category. Okay. So pleasing men is in a different category than pleasing God. Well, that makes perfectly good sense, doesn't it? Okay. Now, could we both please God and please men if the men were good people? I believe
Yes.
we could, but we won't please all men because some men are evil and they don't want the truth to be preached, taught, or advocated. Some men want to still commit their sinful actions. They don't want to be told they're wrong. Okay. Now then, but to God, and what's the rest of this?
Well, okay. I put for toe to the one, examining our hearts, or the hearts of us.
Okay, now, examining is a good translation. It's on the screen right here, let me highlight it. Notice that this is assaying of a metal. Now, if you're going to assay a metal, will there be some standard by which you have to check the metal from a chemical standpoint? Everyone agree there would have to be, okay, to determine whether it's really gold or silver or whatever metal you're looking for. So right here, God proves our hearts. Now, how does he prove our hearts? How does he test and examine our hearts? This verse doesn't tell us, does it? We just have to put the rest of the Bible in here. Would you agree that he would test us in accordance with his will, whether or not we're obeying his will? I think we have a threefold test. God looks at our hearts and our intents and purposes, and then if the heart is right, then our speech will probably be right, and our actions will probably be right. So there's how we think, how we speak, and how we conduct ourselves. Okay? Now, many of our religious neighbors think the heart's the blood pump. And so I got a question. How would you show that it's not the blood pump? Well, let me suggest something. Jeremiah 31 through 34 is quoted twice in the book of Hebrews. What I would exhort you to do is, if you have my Holy Spirit books, look up my comments on those two verses. And I show that by inspiration, he defines the word heart, how he defines it. And we won't go into it right now, okay? But he defines what the heart is. The heart and the mind are the same thing, right? So how'd you translate all of verse 4 there, Chris? I know Freddie did the first part, but go ahead and give us your translation of the whole verse, please.
Is this for me?
Yes, please.
The whole verse?
Please.
So we speak not as to men, pleasing, not to please men, but to God, to please God, the one examining our hearts.
Okay. On proving or examining, it's approved as you would a metal and an assay and an ore. Okay? Other questions or comments?
Yes, sir. Thought I'd interject something that might not be clear. At least it wasn't for me. I did a little bit of a review on the perfect, which you commented on, and Mounce made the following observation. He said the Greek perfect describes an action that was brought to completion and whose effects are felt in the present. Remember, the time of the verb is from the standpoint of the speaker/writer, not the reader. What is present to the biblical writer may or may not be present to us.
Well, that's true.
So it brought to mind, for me at least, that a lot of times you hear it's completed action, ongoing action, and then the obvious conclusion that the speaker usually gives is that it's still present today, when it may or may not be present today, the effect. But at the time of the writer, it is, the effects are present.
Thank you. Thank you for those comments. That's a good point. Continue speaking if you would.
Oh, and that, I just wanted to get that point across. It was something I didn't realize till I read it's William Mounce's book on the tense, and then it kind of clicked, and I thought I'd bring it up.
Well, that would apply also to the present tense. Because if it's spoken of in present tense by one of the apostles, that doesn't mean it's necessarily present tense today. So
Yes,
God could be speaking through them present tense when they wrote and spoke, but not speaking through them today in the same sense, only speaking through their writings. So again, this gets into dealing with context, doesn't it? You have to keep everything in its context.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Okay. Thank you.
You bet.
All right. I don't know who we're back to. James, did I start with you, or
I believe, yes, sir, you did.
could you take, well, just take all of verse 5 if you would.
Okay. Utagar pota and logo, kolakeas, agane themen, kathos, wedata, uta and prophase, Flaon nexias, theos martus. And I translated that, for neither did we come previously with flattering words, just as you know, nor with a false motive of covetousness or greed. God is witness.
Either at any time where we found. So right here, at any time shows not one time did this occur. All right, where we found, or the word translated found is genomai, came to be. We didn't come into the being, or it didn't occur that we didn't do this. It didn't come into existence in our actions, using words or in words of flattery. If you study in the Old Testament, a flatterer hates the one he flattered. He actually, it's not an act of love. Flattery is not. And as you know, so they were clearly aware that Paul hadn't done this. And again, this is perfect tense, isn't it? Oidate, which gets back to your comments. They knew it at that time. They knew it in the past, and they still knew it at that time. I think human witnesses can give witness. Humans can give witness that one does not use flattery. So here in this case, he called them as witnesses. Again, we have ute again. It's an adjunctive. So it's something addition. Here's something else we didn't do. We didn't wear a cloak, or actually to shine forth of covetousness. So we weren't covetous. Now, what's the difference between covetousness and a lover of money? Someone help me.
You said covetousness and a lover of
More
money?
area than money.
I don't think there is a difference.
Okay. Covetous man, the word covetousness is a greedy desire to have more. It's a have more attitude. And when you study it all in its context, a person is desirous of more and he's willing to sin to get it. Now, there's nothing wrong with becoming wealthy if you use it for the right reason. So it is obtaining money in a sinful manner. And this desire to get it and be willing to compromise and not do what God tells us to do. Now, love of money is a man, once he gets it, won't use it, he's stingy with it. So here's the covetous man, he sins in getting the money, and the lover of money man, that word that's found, is a fellow that once he gets it, he won't use it, he's stingy with it. So there's two ways you can sin with your money. You can sin in getting it, do sinful things to get it, and then once you get it, suppose you got it in a lawful way, but you're stingy with it and won't use it for good. And so both of those are sins, and they're different sins in the context. Any comments there? He calls not only them to be witnesses, you're aware of this, as you know, but God is also a witness. This might be an oath on the part of Paul. Some think it is. Paul wasn't preaching for the money that he would make for earthly gain. How do we know that? How did they know he wasn't doing that? What evidence did they have that he wasn't doing it?
Wasn't charging him for it.
He wasn't getting paid at all.
He was making his own money.
He was working himself, supporting himself. See? So that shows he wasn't doing it for the money. Okay? Does that make sense? Now, any questions? Verse 6. We're going to go a couple more weeks, I'll let you know, but we normally let out in the middle of May because school is out and people take vacations and everything. Take back up in August. So we'll probably go a couple more weeks and call a halt to it for the summer. Okay? I'll announce that when we're going to end it. Let's look at verse 6, if we would. All right? And so I guess we go to Freddie would be next, wouldn't he? Freddie?
Yeah, I think we're on to me. Okay.
Freddie, can
Yes,
you
sir.
do this top line? And then we'll have
Oh, okay.
we'll have Chris
Okay.
do the bottom one. Okay?
Okay. Hute setontes ex hex anthroton doxan hote af humon hute ap alone. Okay. Did anybody hear me? My mic is on.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. All right. That translates to nor seeking from men glory, neither from you nor from others.
Okay, very good. So you translated zaytuntes as a participle. That's correct. So it is a participle,
Right.
a present active participle. So we're neither are we seeking. Now this ute again, he's adding another point on that's not related. It's just some additional point here. So we weren't seeking the glory of men, neither were we seeking what?
Nor from you. You
See,
are
the word glory is not there, but I believe you're correct. I think it's implied in the last part. Neither from you, neither or nor from who?
nor from. Right.
Now, alon is from what word? Help us out, somebody.
Oh, Allah, but
Okay, it's from alos. That's correct. Now, what's the difference between heteros and alos?
Others like you. Same.
It's others like you, Tony says. So this is others of the same nature as you. So maybe from you nor anybody like you, see?
right.
Now the you might be the church at Thessalonica, and the others might be other congregations.
I see.
But they would be others of the same nature as the Thessalonians. So that's why I think they're probably other congregations. That's just my interpretation. Anybody got a better shot at that? Something you want to add?
So is he confirming or confirming that this is very real and it's not coming from anyone else but God.
Right. So I wasn't seeking to make money. I wasn't seeking for the praise of men. Now, some people will do good things just for the praise of men.
Right.
And Matthew 6, Jesus condemned the Jews for praying to be seen of men, say,
Right.
or giving their alms to be seen of men. And so again, we could have that motive. And when you read in the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew 6, you'll see they received all the reward they're going to get. They have received their reward when they get the praise of men, because that's all they're going to get. They won't get any from God. So our motive must be way beyond the pleasing of men or the glory we get from men. So shouldn't be for covetousness. shouldn't be for the glory of men, neither from them, the glory from them, nor from other congregations. That's my interpretation. All right. Okay. Chris, could you read the last part for us?
Yes. It is dunamenoi in bare and I hos Christou apostoloi. So I've translated that having authority with weight to be as Christ's apostles.
Okay. Authority is good. As power, the right. It could be translated with several other synonyms, nor do we from others, and that's all those. When we have the right, we have the authority, right? To be what? To have been what?
Christ's apostles, they have the weight.
We could have asked you to support us. I think Silas, the we probably includes Silas and maybe even Timothy. They weren't asking support from the church. And they had the right to have support from the church. All right? Any questions or comments there? They had this right, but they didn't exercise it.
Would you say that word bare that's translated weight? I mean, that's figurative. Is that another way of saying authority? They're emphasizing it.
Yes, they could have been a load, a weight, something that the churches had to bear, and they'd have that right to have it, but they chose not to exercise the right. They supported themselves. Now we've gone back through this earlier, and what we found was the Romans didn't object to taking support from a teacher being paid to teach. But the Greeks did. They thought a man ought to teach for love of what he was teaching. And so their idea was a teacher that was supported by somebody was kind of second rate. That was their idea. And so Paul took support from the church at Philippi because it was a Roman colony and composed almost entirely of Romans or Jews. The Jews had no problem with supporting a teacher either, see? But the Greeks did, and that kind of looked down on it. Now, they didn't say it was wrong to be supported, but they thought it kind of lowered you in their idea. You weren't respected quite as much. That may be part of why Paul did this. We don't know, but I suspect things like this are in the background. It's my suspicion. Any questions or comments? Hey, what do? You do everything you can to convert as many souls as you can. Does that make sense? And if you have to work at a secular job to do it, that's how it is. I know good preachers that support themselves and they never preach for big congregations, but they support themselves. And and some of them do good work. They're not famous, but God knows them, and I believe he will reward them in due time. So we could have been burdensome as apostles of Christ. Now, if this is apostles of Christ, he may be talking about himself and all the other apostles as well. He and all the other apostles had the right to be supported. So he's with the other apostles. That's the way I interpret it. Not just that Silas was an apostle of the church at Antioch, but I think he's talking about apostles of Christ here. And so he's saying, I'm in the same category with Peter and John and James and Andrew and the other apostles. And they are being supported. And I think the church knew well that they were being supported. And so we have that right too, but we chose not to exercise the right. And now then, here's the thing. Let me point out. Faithful children of God would recognize that once they were taught the gospel, they'd say, yes, I can see why they need to be supported, and I don't look down upon them for doing it. But non-Christians might still look down upon them. Does that make sense? Or weak members. And so he's thinking about these people and the possibility it might be a stumbling block to someone that might be converted. I don't want to be a stumbling block to anybody. Any questions? Summary of the wrong motives for preaching and actions when preaching the gospel. Guile, and then there's error and uncleanness to please men, using flattery, cloaking and covetousness, seeking glory of men. These are all the wrong motives. Right? Any questions? Let me give you my translation. Nor seeking glory of men, neither from you nor from others. And I footnoted it. Number 5, footnote. Others of the same nature, probably of the Christians, perhaps Christians at Philippi and so forth. All right? When we might have been a burden to you as apostles of Christ. All right? Okay, questions? All right. Verse 7, and I forgot who read last. Did Freddie read last? No, Chris did, I think, didn't you, Chris?
Yes.
Tony, could you read this for us? I've skipped you, haven't I, Tony?
That's okay.
All right. I'm sorry.
That's all right. All igana themain apioi and meso humon host on trophos thalpa ta eutes techna.
Okay?
And
Genethaman is what?
again a Thaman, and again Thaman.
Yes.
Again a Thaman. I translated it, but we were gentle in the midst of you all, as when one nursing cherishes her own children.
Okay. That's good, rendering. But we were gentle. This is from Ginoma. So we became gentle, or I would say we became gentle. Okay. And so that gentle, and as a nurse, in the midst of them, in the midst of you, as a nurse, is when a nurse cherishes her own children. All right. Now, sometimes slaves would become nurses, and like we would, I guess in Europe and particularly in England, they have women that's job is to take care of the child. Okay, so they do that. They call them nannies, I think. Okay. Her own, heotes, those of her, the children of her. All right. Now, to look at the next verse particularly. So he's showing what a nurse would do, cherishing her own children. All right. Now, right here, I thought we had talking about fathers here. Skip something?
I don't remember fathers.
Her fathers being here. All right. Okay. Let's do the next one here. And are we back to James? Chris, have you done yours? James
I went right before Tony.
Okay. So, James, could you do that? What I've highlighted in verse 8? James?
Yes, sir. Sorry. On mute. Hutos, Himeromenoi, Humon, Eudokumen, Metadunai, Humin, Mononto, Euangelion, Tu Theou, And I translated that, thus earnestly desiring of you, we were well pleased to share with you not only the gospel of God.
Okay, so we were well pleased. We were affectionately desirous, King James reads, earnestly desirous of you. So we were well pleased to impart to you not only the gospel of God, not the gospel of God only, but what? Is Freddie next online? Freddie, can you do this?
Yes, sir. Okay. Allah Kai Tas Hiaton Plukas Dioti Aga Paytoy Hamin Gegen Gegene Gegene Stay.
Okay, Gegeneste. Gegeneste.
Gegeneste.
Yeah.
Okay, my translation is, but also our own lot. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry.
Hard to say lives, that's correct. But another, it also translates as another word.
Okay, but also our own lives, because beloved to us ye have become.
Good. And sukos could be souls or lives. It's translated both ways in the various translations. All right. Any comments, everybody? Anybody? We not only gave you the gospel, we imparted also to our own souls, our lives. Okay. Souls, the King James American Standard rendered, but it is translated lives many times. But also our own souls. Okay. They were willing to give up their lives for these brethren. So basically, I think he's saying we were willing to die for you. We put our lives in jeopardy, and they certainly did. And so in doing this, they demonstrated their great love for them. Even so, being affectionately desirous of you, we were well pleased to impart in you not only the gospel of God, but also our own souls, our lives. And then I footnote that because you have become dear to us. You've become very dear. And beloved is actually the word for dear.
I put very in italics. Very.
Very dear.
Mm-hmm.
I believe let's go back and look at it. I think that's probably good. Right? That'll work. Okay. Now, we're down to almost the end of class. Let me just stop here and see, are there any questions or comments you have about this? Anybody?
Yes, brother Marion, that last verse that was just read, so is that synonymous with Romans 12 and 1 and 2, the giving of ourselves to the church or to God?
Well, I think they were giving themselves for the benefit of the church, so there probably is definitely some overlap in meaning. I would say there probably is. Okay.
I have one question.
All right.
Okay.
God, there. I couldn't tell from the context whether that was ablative or genitive, because it seems it could be either one or maybe both. I don't know. But is this gospel from God, or is it the gospel of God?
Well, there's about 3 or 4 ways it could be interpreted. We could have the objective or the subjective genitive or ablative case. And so it could be the gospel about God. That I don't like that. It could be God's gospel, His good news, or it could be the good news from God.
Yeah, that's
And
where
it's a contextual argument as to which it is.
well, I just put
I
a
could make a
question
good
mark.
argument for all 3 of them. Either one of them.
Well, that was my problem. I didn't know quite whether to go with. I just put a question mark there. So.
Well, sometimes I think God intends for us to put together the rest of the Bible and harmonize this more with the overall thrust of the whole Bible. So I would say it's the gospel that God gave or that came from God.
From ablative.
And probably
I underline ablative, but I
possibly
put a
ablative.
question. Yeah.
But it could be God's gospel, which would be the same thing in the long run. Okay. Any other comments? Okay, we'll start with verse 9 next week. And Thomas, I want to talk to you just a minute. And as soon as we get through recording, I'll talk to all of you in just a minute. All right? All right.